If you already know how to access the feedback that I'm providing you on your thought primers, not the scores, but the actual written feedback, you don't need to watch any more of this video because that's all that I'm going to go over here. When you submit to me your thought primers, I read every single word really carefully. And sometimes I'll read your thought primers more than once because I really want to understand, what's your thinking process? How did you come to the conclusions that you have? Or why do you have the questions or the uncertainties that you do? And frequently, I'll read your thought primer and then I'll kind of step away from my computer. I might pace around my room a little bit and really mull your ideas over in my mind and try to think about, well, what are the implications of this? Or am I really understanding what this person is saying? Or am I aware of other issues or ways of thinking that you might find of interest that I could share with you? And then what I'll do is I'll come back to my computer and I will write some narrative feedback to you that's related to whatever it is that you said in your thought primer. And my hope is that you'll go into your thought primers and not just look to see what scores you got, but also look at my feedback to see if it helps deepen or further your thinking. Okay, so the question then is, well, how do I access this feedback that you're providing me? When a thought primer comes back to you, you're going to get notified in Canvas by a little red number that shows up next to grades, and the number will correspond to the number of assignments that have been returned to you. And so then you just click on grades and you'll be able to scroll down this page and you can see I've got lots of missing assignments here because I'm a terrible student. But when I have an assignment that I have completed and it's been returned back to me, there's going to be a little blue bullet right here next to it because I submitted thought primer number 2. I got 100% because I rocked it on this. But the 100% I'm hoping is less important to you, or at least equally important to you, as my thoughts about the ideas that you offered in this thought primer. And you can access my thoughts about your ideas by clicking right on the thought primer. And what'll come up is a window that shows the work you originally submitted. And then over here are my comments to you. Now, I almost always will include in my response back to you some questions, right? Sometimes the questions will be something along the line, a question might be like, hey, I'm going to try to explain to you what I think you're saying, and I need you to tell me if I'm getting it. So I'll explain something back to you, try to paraphrase back what I think your position is, and I'll say to you, am I getting this? Like, am I understanding you correctly, or is this the way you're thinking about this? But probably more common is that I'll respond back to you and say like, hey, here's another way of thinking about this, or here's some additional ways of thinking about this, or here's some implications to your ideas. And I'll end with a, what do you think? Do you have thoughts on this? How would you approach this? And that's an invitation to you to pop down into this add a comment box and say, well, since you've asked, I'll tell you what I think about the question that you have posed to me. And we can have some amount of back and forth. We can keep going back and forth as much as is fruitful. When I respond back to your thought primers, though, and I get silencio, I think, oh my gosh, I must not have asked a very good question, or I must not have provided any useful information because I got no response. So I really encourage you, not only for my own ego and psychological well-being, but also for your benefit as a student who needs to have as much practice as you can get at kind of playing around with ideas and expressing them in different ways, to add comments and to respond to the questions and the ideas that I'm throwing your way in my comments and feedback on your thought primer. All right.